As you settle in and allow your breathing to slow, imagine the feeling of warm ocean water gently lifting you. Above, the surface glimmers softly with filtered sunlight. Below, a vast coral reef stretches out like a living city, calm, colorful, and quietly alive. Tonight, we're going to drift together beneath those waves, exploring coral reefs through gentle, fascinating facts designed to relax your mind and guide you toward sleep. Coral reefs are among the most peaceful and mesmerizing environments on Earth. They don't rush. They don't shout for attention. They grow slowly, patiently, over thousands of years, shaping underwater landscapes that support life in remarkable ways. As you listen, there's nothing you need to remember, nothing you need to do. Simply let each thought float past like a small fish moving through clear water. If you enjoy calm, educational journeys like this one, you're warmly invited to like and subscribe, but only if it truly adds to your relaxation. And if you feel like it, you can share where you're listening from tonight, your country, your city, and the time on your clock. It's always comforting to know how many quiet corners of the world are listening together under the same ocean of stars. Now, let's begin our gentle descent. Coral reefs are often called the rainforests of the sea, and this comparison is more than poetic. Despite covering less than 1% of the ocean floor, coral reefs support roughly a quarter of all known marine species. Fish, mollusks, crustaceans, sea turtles, and countless microscopic organisms find food, shelter, and safety among the branching structures of coral colonies. This incredible concentration of life makes reefs essential to marine biodiversity and global ocean health. At first glance, corals may look like colorful rocks or underwater plants. In reality, corals are animals. Each coral colony is made up of thousands, sometimes millions, of tiny animals called polyps. These polyps are related to jellyfish and sea anemones. They have soft bodies, tentacles, and a simple digestive system. Together, they form complex limestone skeletons that slowly build the reef's structure. One of the most fascinating aspects of coral life is its quiet partnership with microscopic algae known as zooxanthellae. These algae live inside coral tissues, where they perform photosynthesis using sunlight to produce energy. In return, the coral provides the algae with shelter and access to sunlight. This gentle exchange fuels reef growth and gives corals their vibrant colors, from soft browns and greens to bright blues, purples, and pinks. Coral reefs grow best in shallow, clear, warm waters, typically between 23 and 29 degrees Celsius, or about 73 to 84 degrees Fahrenheit. These conditions are most common in tropical and subtropical regions near the equator. That's why some of the world's most famous coral reefs are found in places like the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, the Coral Triangle in Southeast Asia, and the Caribbean Sea. The Great Barrier Reef, the largest coral reef system on Earth, stretches for more than 2,300 kilometers along Australia's northeastern coast. It's so large that it can be seen from space. But even within this immense system, the reef is made up of countless individual coral communities, each with its own rhythms, species, and subtle variations in color and structure. Coral reefs don't appear overnight. They form slowly over thousands and even millions of years. Some reefs begin around underwater volcanoes or along continental shelves, where corals attach themselves to hard surfaces. As generations of corals grow, die, and leave behind their calcium carbonate skeletons, the reef gradually rises toward the surface, layer like a natural underwater archive of time. There are several main types of coral reefs. Fringing reefs grow close to shore, hugging coastlines and islands. Barrier reefs form farther offshore, separated from land by deeper lagoons. Atolls are ring-shaped reefs that encircle lagoons, often forming around submerged volcanic islands. Each type creates unique underwater landscapes that influence currents, water flow, and marine life patterns. Beyond their beauty, coral reefs play an important role in protecting coastlines. The solid structures of reefs act as natural breakwaters, absorbing the energy of waves and reducing coastal erosion. In many regions, reefs help shield beaches, mangroves, and coastal communities from storms and strong currents, quietly performing a vital service for both nature and human society. For people, coral reefs are deeply connected to culture, economy, and travel. Millions of people around the world rely on reefs for food, employment, and tourism. Snorkeling and diving on coral reefs support local economies and offer travelers a sense of wonder that few other environments can match. These underwater ecosystems contribute to sustainable tourism, education, and scientific research, blending natural beauty with economic value. As we drift a little deeper, it becomes clear that coral reefs are not silent places. While they may seem calm, reefs are filled with gentle sounds. Scientists have recorded the soft crackling of shrimp, the low hum of fish movement, and the subtle shifting of water through coral branches. These sounds help guide fish larvae back to reefs, making sound an important part of reef life and navigation. Light behaves differently underwater, especially around reefs. Sunlight filters through the surface and scatters as it moves deeper, creating shifting patterns of blue and green. Red light fades quickly, while blue light travels farther, giving reefs their cool, soothing color palette. This filtered light contributes to the tranquil feeling many people experience when observing reef environments, whether in person or through film and soundscapes. Coral reefs also reflect Earth's geological history. By studying coral skeletons, scientists can learn about past sea levels, ocean temperatures, and even ancient climate patterns. In this way, reefs act like living libraries, quietly recording changes in the planet over time. This makes them valuable not only for marine biology, but also for education, climate science, and environmental history. Despite their resilience, coral reefs are sensitive ecosystems. Changes in water temperature, pollution, and ocean chemistry can stress corals and disrupt their partnerships with algae. When corals become stressed, they may expel their algae, leading to a pale appearance known as coral bleaching. While this is a serious challenge, reefs also show remarkable capacity for recovery when conditions improve, reminding us of the ocean's quiet strength. For now, as we rest in this calm introduction, there's no need to think about urgency or solutions. Tonight is about understanding, appreciation, and gentle curiosity. Coral reefs have existed long before humans, and, with care, may continue far into the future, growing slowly beneath the waves. As we continue drifting gently beneath the surface, the reef begins to reveal its intricate architecture. Coral reefs are not flat or uniform. They rise, dip, branch, and curve in endlessly varied forms, creating underwater landscapes as complex as any city built on land. These shapes are not random. Each curve and crevice plays a role in supporting life, guiding water flow, and shaping the quiet rhythms of the sea. Coral colonies grow in many forms, and these forms are often described by their shape. Some corals grow like branching trees, with delicate arms that reach upward toward the light. Others form massive, rounded domes that resemble underwater hills or ancient stone sculptures. Still, others spread out like plates or fans, stacking themselves to capture sunlight efficiently in deeper waters. Together, these shapes create a three-dimensional world filled with shelter and movement. Branching corals, such as staghorn and elkhorn corals, are among the fastest-growing reef builders. Their open structures allow fish to weave in and out with ease, offering protection from predators. Small fish often gather here, using the coral branches as safe resting places during the night. These corals are especially important in shallow reef zones where sunlight is abundant and water movement is strong. Massive corals grow much more slowly, sometimes only a few millimeters per year. Because of this slow pace, some of the largest coral heads on Earth are hundreds, even thousands, of years old. These corals act like living monuments, quietly recording centuries of ocean conditions within their layered skeletons. Their solid forms provide stability to the reef, anchoring it against waves and currents. Plate-like corals often grow in deeper or slightly shaded areas of the reef. By spreading outward in wide, flat shapes, they maximize their surface area for capturing light. These corals create layered terraces that resemble underwater balconies, where fish glide effortlessly along the edges. The gentle shadows beneath these plates offer cooler resting spots for marine life during warmer parts of the day. Soft corals add another dimension to reef architecture. Unlike hard corals, they do not build rigid limestone skeletons. Instead, they sway gracefully with the current, resembling underwater plants or slow-motion dancers. Sea fans, sea whips, and soft corals filter tiny particles from the water, contributing to reef health while adding a sense of calm movement to the scene. The spaces between corals are just as important as the corals themselves. Narrow cracks, sandy channels, and hidden caves form natural pathways through the reef. These spaces allow water to circulate, delivering oxygen and nutrients while carrying away waste. Fish use these corridors as travel routes, and larger animals often patrol the edges, moving slowly and deliberately. Water flow shapes reef architecture over time. In areas with strong waves, corals tend to grow lower and sturdier, hugging the reef surface to reduce breakage. In calmer waters, corals can grow taller and more delicate. This constant interaction between coral growth and ocean movement creates a balance that feels almost intentional, as though the reef is quietly adapting to its surroundings. Reef zones are often described by their depth and exposure to waves. The reef crest, closest to the surface, absorbs the full energy of incoming waves. Corals here are tough and compact. Just beyond lies the reef flat, a shallow area where sunlight is intense and water warms quickly. Farther down the slope, light softens, temperatures cool slightly, and coral shapes change to suit these conditions. Each zone supports different communities of life. Herbivorous fish graze on algae near the reef flat, helping keep corals from being overgrown. Predatory fish patrol the outer slopes, maintaining balance within the ecosystem. Tiny organisms live hidden within coral skeletons, contributing quietly to nutrient cycling and reef stability. Coral reefs also interact with sandy environments nearby. Sand is not empty space. It's often home to burrowing creatures like worms, clams, and small crustaceans. Gentle currents move sand around the reef, reshaping the seafloor in slow, rhythmic patterns. At night, the reef's architecture takes on a different character. As daylight fades, many corals extend their tentacles to feed, transforming the reef into a field of tiny, waving arms. Nocturnal animals emerge from hiding, gliding through coral corridors and open spaces. The reef becomes quieter in some ways, yet more active in others, following a cycle as old as the ocean itself. Human visitors often describe coral reefs as places of wonder and tranquility. Divers and snorkelers move slowly through these underwater structures, careful not to disturb the fragile forms. This slow movement encourages mindfulness, making reef tourism a unique blend of travel, education, and calm observation. For many, it becomes a luxury experience defined not by speed or noise, but by stillness and attention. Scientists study reef architecture to better understand resilience and recovery. Certain coral shapes are more resistant to storms, while others recover faster after damage. By learning from these natural designs, researchers gain insights that influence conservation strategies and even inspire technology and architecture on land. As we continue drifting, notice how nothing here feels rushed. Growth happens gradually. Change unfolds quietly. The reef teaches patience through its very structure, reminding us that strength doesn't always come from speed, but from steady presence over time. As we drift a little deeper into the calm rhythm of the reef, the living architecture around us begins to fill with motion. Coral reefs are not only structures, they are neighborhoods. Every ledge, branch, and shaded hollow is home to creatures that have learned to live closely together, sharing space in ways that feel balanced and quietly cooperative. Fish are often the first life forms people notice on a reef. Their colors seem brighter here, shaped by sunlight filtered through clear water. These colors serve many purposes. Some help fish blend into coral patterns, offering protection. Others act as signals, helping fish recognize mates or warn rivals. In the soft light of the reef, even bright colors feel gentle rather than overwhelming. Small reef fish tend to move in calm, repeating patterns. Damselfish hover close to their chosen coral heads, rarely straying far. Butterfly fish glide slowly, often in pairs, their movements unhurried and synchronized. Parrotfish, named for their beak-like mouths, spend much of their day grazing on algae that grows on coral surfaces. As they feed, they help keep the reef healthy, preventing algae from blocking sunlight needed by corals. Parrotfish play another quiet role in the reef's story. When they scrape algae from coral, they also ingest tiny fragments of limestone. Over time, these fragments are ground down and released as fine sand. Many tropical beaches around the world are formed partly from this coral sand, created slowly by generations of parrotfish. In this way, reefs are connected to shorelines, travel destinations, and coastal tourism far beyond the water's edge. Larger fish often move more slowly, conserving energy. Groupers rest beneath overhangs during the day, watching calmly as smaller fish pass by. Angelfish drift with confidence, their broad fins moving like slow fans. Even predators here tend to move with patience rather than urgency, striking only when the moment feels right. Among the fish live countless invertebrates, creatures without backbones that form the quiet foundation of reef life. Sea urchins cling to rocks and crevices, grazing on algae at night. Starfish move almost imperceptibly across the reef, their tube feet working in steady rhythm. Some starfish species play important roles in maintaining balance, while others, when too abundant, can challenge reef health. Crustaceans add small but constant activity. Shrimp clean parasites from fish, setting up cleaning stations where fish line up patiently, waiting their turn. This mutual relationship benefits both sides. The shrimp gain food, and the fish enjoy better health. These cleaning stations are among the reef's most peaceful scenes, where different species gather without conflict. Crabs hide beneath rocks and within coral gaps, emerging cautiously to feed. Some crabs live directly within coral branches, offering protection in exchange for helping remove debris or deter predators. These partnerships illustrate how closely intertwined reef life can be, with cooperation often proving more effective than competition. Mollusks, such as clams and snails, live quieter lives still. Giant clams sit anchored in place, their colorful mantles open wide to sunlight. Inside, their tissues live symbiotic algae, similar to those found in corals. Together, they share energy and nutrients, growing slowly over decades. Smaller snails graze along the reef surface, leaving faint trails that disappear almost as soon as they form. Octopuses and cuttlefish bring a different kind of intelligence to the reef. Though often hidden during the day, they observe their surroundings with remarkable awareness. Their ability to change color and texture allows them to blend seamlessly into coral backgrounds. When they move, it's with purpose and control, making them feel like quiet thinkers among the reef's many residents. Reef life follows a gentle daily cycle shaped by light. At dawn, fish begin to emerge from their nighttime shelters. Feeding increases as sunlight strengthens, fueling photosynthesis in corals and algae. By midday, activity slows slightly as animals rest in shaded areas. As evening approaches, the reef shifts again, preparing for the night. At night, a new cast of creatures appears. Nocturnal fish glide through open water, while daytime species retreat into coral branches. Corals extend their feeding tentacles, catching tiny plankton drifting past. It simply changes pace, continuing its quiet work under the stars above. Sound exists here, though it's subtle. Clicking, shrimp, grazing fish, and distant wave movement create a soft, underwater hum. Researchers have found that healthy reefs are often noisier than damaged ones, filled with these gentle sounds of life. For marine larvae drifting in the open ocean, these sounds act like a guide, helping them locate reefs where they can settle and grow. Human cultures around the world have long depended on reef fish for food, trade, and tradition. Sustainable fishing practices passed down through generations reflect deep respect for reef balance. Today, reef-based tourism supports local economies, offering livelihoods through snorkeling, diving, and marine education. When done responsibly, this form of travel encourages conservation while providing peaceful, enriching experiences for visitors. Education plays a vital role in reef protection. By understanding how each fish, crab, and coral contributes to the whole, people gain appreciation for the reef's complexity. This knowledge supports conservation policies, marine protected areas, and sustainable tourism models that aim to preserve reefs for future generations. As we float gently among these reef neighbors, notice how nothing feels crowded despite the abundance of life. Each creature has found its place, moving just enough, taking only what it needs. The reef becomes a lesson in balance, patience, and coexistence. As we drift onward, leaving the close company of reef creatures, the view begins to widen. Coral reefs may seem small when compared to vast oceans, but their influence reaches far beyond their immediate surroundings. Like quiet anchors beneath the waves, reefs shape water movement, protect coastlines, and even play a role in the global climate system. Their impact unfolds slowly over years and centuries in ways that are easy to overlook but deeply important. One of the reef's most visible roles is as a natural barrier. Reefs absorb the energy of waves as they approach shore, reducing their strength before they reach beaches and coastal communities. In tropical regions, this protection can mean the difference between gentle tides and destructive flooding. Studies show that healthy reefs can reduce wave energy by up to 97%, acting as living breakwaters formed not from concrete or steel, but from calcium carbonate built by tiny animals over generations. This protective role supports coastal economies around the world. Tourism, infrastructure, ports, and seaside cities benefit from calmer waters created by reefs. In regions dependent on beach tourism, reefs help preserve the sandy shorelines that attract travelers seeking relaxation. Luxury resorts and nature-focused travel experiences. Without reefs, many iconic beaches would erode more quickly, reshaping coastlines and local livelihoods. Reefs also influence ocean currents on a smaller scale. As water flows over and around reef structures, it creates eddies and gentle mixing. This movement helps distribute nutrients and oxygen, supporting marine life not only on the reef itself, but in surrounding waters. The reef becomes a hub, quietly feeding life beyond its boundaries. Climate connections extend further. Coral reefs participate in the global carbon cycle. As corals build their skeletons from calcium carbonate, they store carbon in solid form. While reefs are not the largest carbon sinks compared to forests or deep ocean sediments, their contribution adds to a broader balance that keeps Earth's systems in check. In this way, coral reefs are linked, however subtly, to conversations about climate stability and environmental resilience. Reefs are also sensitive indicators of ocean health. Changes in water, temperature, acidity, and clarity affect corals quickly. Because of this sensitivity, scientists often study reefs to understand broader environmental shifts. Monitoring coral bleaching events, for example, provides insight into rising sea temperatures and changing climate patterns. Reefs act as early messengers, quietly reflecting changes happening across the planet. The relationship between reefs and land extends through rivers as well. Sediment carried by rivers can settle on reefs, affecting coral growth. In healthy systems, mangroves and seagrass beds filter this sediment before it reaches reefs, forming a connected network of ecosystems. This connection highlights how land use, agriculture, and urban development can influence reef health even when they occur far inland. Historically, reefs have shaped human movement and culture. Ancient navigators used reefs as markers, hazards, and shelters during long sea voyages. Many island nations formed around reef systems that provided food, protection, and trade routes. Fishing techniques, boat designs, and cultural traditions evolved in harmony with reef environments, reflecting generations of observation and respect. Economically, reefs support millions of people worldwide. Fisheries depend on reef habitats as breeding and nursery grounds for many commercially valuable species. Tourism, centered on coral reefs, generates billions of dollars annually, supporting jobs in guiding, hospitality, transportation, and education. When managed sustainably, reef tourism offers an example of how economic growth and environmental protection can coexist. Education and research institutions often focus on reefs as living laboratories. Their complexity allows scientists to study ecology, evolution, symbiosis, and adaptation in a single environment. Discoveries made on reefs have influenced fields ranging from medicine to materials science, showing how nature's designs can inspire technology and innovation. Reefs also influence the rhythm of nearby coastal life. Tides interacting with reef structures create lagoons and calm waters, ideal for seagrass growth. These lagoons become feeding grounds for turtles, nursery areas for fish, and tranquil spaces that invite human recreation. Kayaking, swimming, and shallow water exploration thrive in these protected zones, blending leisure with nature appreciation. As night falls over reef-protected coastlines, the ocean often feels calmer, its surface reflecting stars with fewer disturbances. This quiet scene, shaped in part by reefs beneath the surface, mirrors the calming effect reefs have on the broader environment. Their presence brings balance, moderation, and stability. Yet, reefs are not separate from the challenges facing the planet. Climate change, pollution, and overfishing place pressure on these delicate systems. Still, reefs have shown resilience when given the chance to recover. Marine protected areas, sustainable tourism practices, and global conservation efforts offer hope that reefs can continue their quiet work for generations to come. As you rest with these thoughts, imagine the reef as a gentle bridge between ocean and land, science and culture, nature and human life. Its influence flows outward in soft, steady waves, touching places far beyond where corals grow. As we continue, let your thoughts slow even further, stretching gently across long spans of time. Coral reefs are not hurried creations. They are among the slowest building landscapes on Earth, shaped grain by grain, skeleton over thousands and sometimes millions of years. To understand reefs is to understand patience, continuity, and the quiet persistence of life. Each coral polyp builds only a tiny amount of calcium carbonate in its lifetime. Measured year by year, coral growth may seem almost unnoticeable, often just a few millimeters annually. Yet, when multiplied across billions of polyps and centuries of uninterrupted growth, these small contributions become massive reef structures visible from space. The Great Barrier Reef, for example, began forming over 20 million years ago, long before modern humans appeared. This might be a volcanic rock, a submerged mountain, or even the remains of older reefs. Coral larvae, drifting through the ocean, settle onto these surfaces when conditions are right. Warm water, sunlight, and clear seas invite them to attach and begin building. From this modest start, a reef slowly rises, layer upon layer, as generations of corals grow, die, and leave their skeletons behind. There are different types of reefs, each shaped by time and geography. Fringing reefs grow close to shore, hugging coastlines like living borders. Barrier reefs form farther out, separated from land by lagoons. Atolls, perhaps the most poetic of reef forms, encircle lagoons in open ocean, often marking the location of ancient volcanic islands that have long since sunk beneath the sea. The story of atolls reveals the partnership between geology and biology. As volcanic islands slowly subside over millions of years, corals continue growing upward toward sunlight. Eventually, the island disappears below the surface, leaving a ring-shaped reef surrounding a tranquil lagoon. This slow dance between sinking land and rising life reflects Earth's ability to reshape itself gently without urgency. Reefs also record environmental history. Just as tree rings tell stories of climate and rainfall, coral skeletons preserve chemical signatures of past ocean conditions. Scientists study these layers to learn about ancient sea temperatures, water chemistry, and even historical storm patterns. Reefs become living archives, storing information about Earth's past in their structure. Growth is not constant. Reefs experience periods of expansion and rest, influenced by sea level changes, temperature shifts, and water clarity. During ice ages, when sea levels dropped, many reefs were exposed and stopped growing. When glaciers melted and seas rose again, reefs resumed their upward climb. This adaptability highlights the resilience built into reef systems over deep time. Even within a single reef, growth patterns vary. Fast-growing branching corals may dominate shallow areas, while slower, massive corals thrive in deeper or calmer waters. This diversity creates the layered architecture of reefs, with ridges, valleys, and hidden chambers that shelter countless species. The reef becomes a three-dimensional landscape, shaped by both time and life. Human timelines feel brief when compared to reef formation. A single century, long by human standards, may represent only a thin layer of coral growth. This perspective invites a sense of humility and respect. Reefs remind us that some of Earth's most important structures are built slowly, through cooperation rather than force. Despite their slow growth, reefs can recover surprisingly well when stressors are reduced. Coral larvae can recolonize damaged areas, and surviving corals can expand to fill gaps. Restoration efforts, such as coral gardening and reef protection zones, work best when aligned with these natural growth rhythms. Success depends not on speed, but on patience. Tourism and education play a role here as well. When travelers learn about reef timelines, they often gain a deeper appreciation for conservation. Snorkeling above a reef becomes more meaningful when one realizes that the coral beneath formed over thousands of years. This awareness transforms leisure into learning and curiosity into care. Cultural traditions in many coastal societies reflect an understanding of reef time. Fishing seasons, reef taboos, and marine rituals often align with natural cycles, allowing reefs periods of rest and regeneration. These practices, developed long before modern science, demonstrate how human culture can synchronize with ecological rhythms. As you imagine reefs growing silently in the dark, millimeter by millimeter, let that sense of slow creation calm your breathing. The reef does not rush, and neither must you. Its story unfolds at a pace that invites rest, reflection, and quiet wonder. Now, as we continue, imagine gently drifting closer to the reef itself, moving from the wide view of geological time into the intimate daily rhythms of life. Coral reefs are often called the rainforests of the sea, not because they look alike, but because they serve a similar role. They are living cities, full of movement, soundless conversations, and constant interaction, all unfolding beneath the surface. Although coral reefs cover less than 1% of the ocean floor, they support an estimated 25% of all marine species. This remarkable concentration of life makes reefs one of the most biodiverse ecosystems on Earth. Fish, mollusks, crustaceans, echinoderms, marine reptiles, and countless microorganisms all find a place within the reef's complex structure. The architecture of coral reefs is key to this abundance. Branching corals create tight spaces where small fish can hide from predators. Massive corals form caves and overhangs that shelter larger species. Sandy patches between coral heads provide feeding grounds, while reef slopes offer pathways for migrating animals. Every curve and crevice serves a purpose. Many reef fish spend their entire lives within a single reef system. Species like clownfish, damselfish, and gobies establish small territories, learning every hiding place and food source. Their daily routines are predictable and calm, mirroring the slow rhythm of the reef itself. This stability allows energy to flow efficiently through the ecosystem. Other animals use reefs at specific life stages. Sea turtles, for example, often forage on reefs as juveniles and adults, feeding on sponges, seagrasses, and algae nearby. Sharks and rays patrol reef edges, maintaining balance by controlling fish populations. Even animals that live in the open ocean often rely on reefs as resting or feeding stops during long journeys. Reefs are especially important as nurseries. Many fish species release as larvae before settling into shallow reef areas. These protected zones offer abundant food and shelter, increasing survival rates. Mangroves and seagrass beds often connect with reefs, forming a network of habitats that support marine life from birth to adulthood. This connectivity highlights how reefs influence broader ocean health. When reef systems are strong, fish populations thrive, not only locally, but also in surrounding waters. This supports fisheries, coastal economies, and food security for millions of people worldwide. In this way, coral reefs quietly support human communities far beyond the shoreline. Symbiotic relationships extend beyond corals and algae. Cleaner fish set up stations where larger fish come to have parasites removed. This mutual exchange benefits both parties and reduces disease within the reef community. Watching such interactions, divers often describe a sense of calm cooperation, as if the reef operates on shared understanding rather than competition. Invertebrates also play crucial roles. Sea urchins graze on algae, preventing it from smothering corals. Crabs and shrimp recycle nutrients by feeding on detritus. Sponges filter enormous volumes of water, improving clarity and redistributing organic matter. Each organism contributes quietly, maintaining balance through simple daily actions. Sound, though absent to us here, is an important part of reef life. Reefs are surprisingly noisy environments, filled with clicks, pops, and low hums produced by shrimp, fish, and other animals. These sounds help larvae locate reefs and signal healthy ecosystems. Scientists now use reef acoustics as a tool to assess reef vitality. At night, the reef transforms. Diurnal fish retreat into hiding, while nocturnal species emerge. Octopuses glide across coral surfaces, hunting with gentle precision. Parrotfish sleep encased in mucus cocoons, possibly to mask their scent from predators. This shift between day and night adds another layer to the reef's living complexity. Human fascination with reef life has inspired art, storytelling, and exploration for centuries. Today, reef tourism supports local economies while offering travelers moments of awe and connection. When managed responsibly, tourism can encourage conservation and education, turning curiosity into stewardship. Education plays a vital role in reef protection. Learning how reefs support marine life fosters appreciation and respect. Simple knowledge, shared gently, can influence behavior, from sustainable seafood choices to support for marine protected areas. In this way, understanding becomes a form of care. As you rest with these images of reefs as living cities, let your mind wander slowly through coral corridors and fish-filled clearings. Life here moves with purpose, but without hurry. Every creature has a place, every role fulfilled in quiet harmony. As we continue drifting gently through the underwater world, let us now turn our attention to the long and layered relationship between coral reefs and human civilization. Long before modern science named species or measured water chemistry, coastal communities around the world had already learned to read the reef's rhythms, depending on them for food, travel, culture, and quiet guidance. For thousands of years, coral reefs served as natural maps. Polynesian navigators, for example, understood how waves bent and reflected around reefs, using subtle changes in swell patterns to locate islands beyond the horizon. These techniques, passed down through oral tradition, allowed open ocean travel across vast distances long before compasses or satellites existed. Reefs were not obstacles, but signposts written into the sea. In many island cultures, reefs were considered sacred spaces. Stories describe them as living ancestors or protective barriers gifted by the ocean. Fishing practices were often regulated by tradition, with seasonal closures and taboo zones that allowed reef populations to recover. These early forms of conservation were rooted not in data, but in observation, respect, and long-term thinking. As global trade expanded, coral reefs became both gateways and hazards. Ships carrying spices, textiles, and precious metals relied on knowledge of reef locations to reach ports safely. At the same time, uncharted reefs caused shipwrecks that now rest quietly on the ocean floor, often transformed into artificial reefs themselves. History, commerce, and coral are intertwined beneath the waves. Scientific study of coral reefs began to accelerate in the 18th and 19th centuries. Naturalists aboard exploratory voyages collected coral samples, initially mistaking them for rocks or plants. It was only through careful observation that scientists realized corals were animals, living colonies capable of building massive structures over time. Charles Darwin made one of the most significant early contributions to reef science. During his voyage on the HMS Beagle, he proposed a theory explaining the formation of atolls, suggesting that they developed as volcanic islands slowly sank while coral growth kept pace with sea level. This idea, later supported by drilling and seismic studies, remains foundational in marine geology. In the 20th century, advances in diving technology transformed reef research. The invention of scuba gear allowed scientists to observe reefs directly, revealing behaviors and interactions that could never be seen from the surface. This immersive access deepened understanding and fostered emotional connections between researchers and reef environments. Modern reef science now spans many disciplines. Marine biology studies species, interactions, and genetics. Oceanography examines currents, temperature, and chemistry. Climate science investigates how global systems influence reef health. Technology plays a growing role, with satellites, underwater drones, and 3D mapping tools offering new perspectives on reef structure and change. Coral reefs have also become powerful indicators of environmental conditions. Because corals are sensitive to temperature and water quality, changes in reef health often signal broader shifts in ocean systems. This makes reefs valuable not only for biodiversity, but also for monitoring planetary well-being. Beyond science, reefs continue to shape economies. Reef-based tourism supports millions of jobs worldwide, from snorkeling guides to hospitality services. When visitors experience reefs firsthand, they often develop a deeper appreciation for marine conservation. Responsible tourism balances access with protection, ensuring reefs remain vibrant for future generations. Coral reefs also influence architecture and design. Their complex structures inspire sustainable building concepts that mimic natural efficiency. Engineers study coral growth patterns to improve materials and resilience, applying lessons from nature to human innovation. In education, reefs serve as powerful teaching tools. They illustrate ecological balance, interdependence, and the consequences of disruption. Students learning about reefs gain insight not only into marine life, but into systems thinking that applies across disciplines. Despite challenges facing reefs, today, human connection to these ecosystems remains strong. Art, photography, and storytelling continue to celebrate their beauty. Conservation efforts increasingly integrate traditional knowledge with modern science, recognizing that wisdom flows from many sources. As you reflect on this shared history, imagine generations of people standing at the water's edge. Time passes, technologies change, but the quiet presence of the reef endures. As we move softly into the next chapter of our underwater journey, let us focus on the delicate balance that allows coral reefs to exist at all. Coral reefs may appear strong and timeless, yet their survival depends on a finely tuned harmony between biology, chemistry, light, and temperature. This balance is quiet, precise, and surprisingly narrow. At the heart of every coral reef is a partnership known as symbiosis. Coral animals, called polyps, live in close relationship with microscopic algae known as zooxanthellae. These algae reside within the coral's tissues, protected from predators and bathed in sunlight. In return, they provide the coral with energy through photosynthesis, producing sugars that fuel growth and reef construction. This relationship explains why most coral reefs thrive in clear, shallow waters. Sunlight must reach the algae for photosynthesis to occur. That is why reefs are often found in tropical regions where the sun is strong and water clarity is high. Murky or polluted water blocks light, weakening this essential energy exchange. Temperature plays an equally critical role. Most reef-building corals prefer water temperatures between about 23 and 29 degrees Celsius, or 73 to 84 degrees Fahrenheit. Even slight, prolonged increases beyond this range can stress corals, disrupting their relationship with zooxanthellae. When stressed, corals may expel these algae, leading to a phenomenon known as coral bleaching. Bleached corals are not immediately dead, but they are vulnerable. Without their algal partners, corals lose their primary energy source and their vibrant colors, turning pale or white. If conditions improve quickly, corals can sometimes recover and regain their algae. If stressful conditions persist, the corals may slowly starve. Water chemistry is another quiet but powerful factor. Corals build their skeletons from calcium carbonate, which they extract from seawater. The availability of carbonate ions depends on the ocean's pH level. Even small changes in acidity can make it harder for corals to grow and maintain their structures. Salinity also matters. Reefs typically flourish in stable, salty ocean water. Heavy rainfall, freshwater runoff, or melting ice can lower salinity levels, stressing corals and affecting their ability to regulate internal processes. This is why reefs are often healthiest far from river mouths and areas of heavy land runoff. Nutrients, too, must remain in balance. Coral reefs evolved in nutrient-poor waters, where competition for resources is low. When excess nutrients enter the system, often from agricultural runoff or sewage, algae can grow rapidly and smother corals. This shift changes the entire ecosystem, favoring fast-growing plants over slow-growing reef builders. Water movement provides another essential service. Gentle currents bring oxygen and food particles to corals while carrying away waste products. Waves and tides also help regulate temperature and prevent sediment from settling on coral surfaces. Too little movement can suffocate corals, while too much force can physically damage them. Sediment is a silent threat. Fine particles stirred up by coastal development or storms can settle on corals, blocking light and clogging feeding structures. Corals can clear small amounts of sediment, but prolonged exposure requires energy that would otherwise support growth and reproduction. Reproduction itself is part of the balance. Many corals reproduce through synchronized spawning events, releasing eggs and sperm into the water on specific nights each year, often timed to lunar cycles. This remarkable coordination increases the chances of fertilization and dispersal, allowing reefs to slowly expand and recover from damage. Coral larvae face long odds. After drifting in the plankton, they must find suitable surfaces free of pollution, excessive algae, or sediment. Only a small fraction succeed, which makes stable conditions essential for reef renewal. Despite these challenges, reefs have shown resilience over long timescales. Fossil records reveal reefs surviving past climate shifts, sea level changes, and geological upheavals. Their persistence lies in adaptability, diversity, and the strength of interconnected systems. Today, scientists study these balances carefully, using long-term monitoring and advanced technology to understand thresholds and tipping points. This research helps guide conservation strategies, marine protected areas, and sustainable tourism practices that align human activity with reef health. As you rest with these thoughts, imagine the reef as a quiet orchestra. Each element, light, temperature, chemistry, movement, plays its part. When all are in harmony, the reef flourishes, humming softly with life. As we continue drifting through the quiet blue world of coral reefs, imagine the reef not as a static structure, but as a living city. Every crevice, ledge, and coral branch serves a purpose. Within this underwater city, countless species move through their routines, each playing a role in keeping the ecosystem balanced and alive. Coral reefs support an extraordinary range of life. Although they cover less than 1% of the ocean floor, they are home to an estimated 25% of all marine species. This concentration of biodiversity rivals that of tropical rainforests, earning reefs the title of the rainforests of the sea. Fish are often the most visible residents. Small, brightly colored reef fish dart between coral branches, using them as shelter from predators. Species like clownfish, damselfish, and butterfly fish have evolved body shapes and behaviors perfectly suited to navigating the complex coral landscape. Their colors may appear decorative, but they often serve as camouflage, warning signals, or communication tools. Larger fish patrol the outer edges of the reef. Groupers, snappers, and barracudas glide through open water, maintaining order by controlling populations of smaller fish. Their presence helps prevent any one species from becoming too dominant, preserving the delicate balance of the ecosystem. Herbivorous fish play a particularly important role. Parrotfish and surgeonfish graze on algae growing on coral surfaces. By keeping algae in check, they prevent it from smothering corals and blocking sunlight. Parrotfish, with their beak-like teeth, even contribute to the formation of sandy beaches by grinding coral into fine sediment during feeding. Invertebrates add another layer of complexity. Sea stars, sea urchins, and sea cucumbers move slowly across the reef, recycling nutrients and cleaning surfaces. Sea urchins, in particular, help control algae growth, though too many can damage coral, showing how balance remains essential even among helpful species. Crustaceans thrive in hidden spaces. Shrimp and crabs tuck themselves into coral cracks, emerging at night to feed. Some shrimp species form cleaning stations, where larger fish gather patiently to have parasites removed from their skin and mouths. These interactions demonstrate cooperation across species, driven by mutual benefit. Mollusks also play a role. Giant clams anchor themselves to reef structures, filtering water and hosting symbiotic algae within their tissues, much like corals do. Their vibrant colors and slow movements make them both functional and visually striking components of reef life. Reefs are also nurseries. Many fish species spend their early life stages among corals, where the complex structure offers protection from predators. These young fish eventually migrate to open ocean or coastal habitats, linking coral reefs to broader marine ecosystems and global fisheries. Some reef inhabitants are masters of disguise. Octopuses can change color and texture to blend seamlessly with coral and rock. Leafy sea dragons mimic drifting seaweed, moving gently with the current. These adaptations highlight the evolutionary creativity shaped by life on the reef. Nighttime brings a different rhythm. As daylight fades, nocturnal creatures emerge. Lobsters leave their shelters, and certain corals extend their tentacles to feed on plankton drifting in the current. Bioluminescent organisms may flicker faintly, adding a soft glow to the darkened reef. Reefs also host visitors from afar. Sea turtles glide over coral gardens, feeding on sponges and algae. Reef sharks patrol the edges, maintaining healthy populations by removing sick or weak prey. These larger animals contribute to the overall stability of the ecosystem. Even microorganisms play essential roles. Bacteria and plankton form the foundation of the reef's food web, cycling nutrients and supporting higher life forms. Though invisible to the naked eye, they are vital to the reef's function and resilience. Human cultures have long depended on reef life. Coastal communities rely on reef fisheries for food and livelihoods. Tourism, centered around snorkeling and diving, supports local economies while offering opportunities for education and conservation. When managed responsibly, these activities create incentives to protect reef ecosystems. As you imagine this living city beneath the waves, picture countless lives moving gently in rhythm, each fulfilling a purpose without urgency or conflict. The reef does not rush, it flows. As we drift onward, let us gently sink beneath the living city and explore the quiet foundation that supports everything above it. Coral reefs may appear delicate and fleeting, but they are built upon processes that unfold over immense stretches of time. Their beauty rests on patience, repetition, and geological consistency. Every coral reef begins with a hard surface. This might be a rocky seafloor, an underwater mountain, or even the remnants of an ancient volcanic island. Corals cannot attach to soft sand, so these solid foundations are essential. Once a suitable surface exists, the slow work of reef building can begin. Individual coral polyps settle onto the substrate as larvae, drifting gently through ocean currents before finding a place to call home. Once attached, a polyp begins secreting calcium carbonate, forming a tiny limestone cup. Over time, this cup becomes the base of a coral colony, as the polyp divides and produces genetically identical copies of itself. As colonies grow, layer upon layer of calcium carbonate accumulates. Even when corals die, their skeletal remains stay behind, providing new surfaces for future generations. In this way, coral reefs are both living structures and geological archives, preserving evidence of past ocean conditions. There are three primary types of coral reefs, each shaped by its relationship to land. Fringing reefs form close to shore, hugging coastlines and islands. Barrier reefs grow farther offshore, separated from land by a lagoon. Atolls form circular reefs surrounding a central lagoon, often where a volcanic island has slowly sunk beneath the sea. The formation of atolls is one of the most elegant processes in marine geology. As a volcanic island emerges from the ocean, corals begin forming a fringing reef around its edges. Over millions of years, the island gradually subsides due to tectonic movement and erosion. Corals continue growing upward towards sunlight, eventually forming a ring-shaped reef after the island disappears below the surface. This slow vertical growth is made possible by coral's ability to keep pace with rising sea levels. After the last ice age, sea levels rose dramatically as glaciers melted. Many modern reefs grew upward during this time, maintaining their position in shallow, sunlit waters. Reefs also shape their surrounding environment. As waves break against reef crests, energy is dissipated, creating calm lagoons behind them. These sheltered waters support seagrass beds and mangroves, forming interconnected coastal ecosystems that benefit fisheries, tourism, and shoreline protection. Sediment plays a role as well. Broken coral fragments, shells, and biological materials settle into gaps within the reef, strengthening its structure over time. This natural cementation helps reefs withstand storms and currents, even as individual organisms come and go. Reefs record climate history in their skeletons. By studying growth bands in coral, much like tree rings, scientists can reconstruct past ocean temperatures, rainfall patterns, and even major climate events such as El Niño. These records are invaluable for understanding Earth's climate system and guiding future environmental planning. Different ocean conditions produce different reef shapes. In clear, nutrient-poor waters, corals rely heavily on their symbiotic algae and tend to form expansive, colorful reefs. In slightly murkier waters, reefs may grow more slowly, but still persist, adapted to local conditions. The color of reef limestone tells stories too. Variations in mineral content and biological composition reflect changes in sea chemistry over time. These subtle differences are studied by geologists to understand long-term ocean processes. Human civilizations have long interacted with reef geology. In some island nations, reef limestone has been used historically in construction. Reefs also influence navigation, shaping trade routes and maritime history by creating both hazards and safe harbors. Modern technology allows us to map reef structures in extraordinary detail. Satellite imagery, sonar mapping, and underwater drones reveal reef contours invisible from the surface. These tools support conservation, tourism management, and scientific research. Blending technology with natural history, despite their strength, reefs are not indestructible. Their slow growth means recovery from damage can take decades or longer. This makes the protection of existing reef structures especially important for future generations. As you picture these immense timelines, imagine coral reefs rising quietly, millimeter by millimeter, year after year. No urgency, no hurry, just steady growth, guided by sunlight, water, and time. As we continue drifting through the gentle world of coral reefs, we now rise slightly closer to the human shoreline, where reefs and people have quietly shaped one another for thousands of years. Long before modern science named coral species or mapped reef systems, coastal communities were already living in rhythm with these underwater landscapes. For many island and coastal cultures, coral reefs have always been natural guardians. They soften waves, reduce erosion, and protect villages from storms. In regions across the Pacific, Indian Ocean, and Caribbean, reefs have acted as invisible walls, preserving shorelines and allowing human settlements to flourish safely near the sea. Fishing traditions developed alongside reefs. The biodiversity of reef ecosystems made them reliable food sources, offering fish, mollusks, crustaceans, and sea plants. Indigenous fishing methods were often highly sustainable, using simple tools and seasonal knowledge passed down through generations. These practices respected spawning cycles and reef health long before conservation became a modern concept. Reefs also influenced trade and travel. Calm lagoons behind barrier reefs created natural harbors, supporting canoe routes, sailing traditions, and early maritime trade. Some of the world's historic trading hubs emerged where reefs provided both protection and access to open seas, quietly shaping regional economies. In many cultures, coral reefs appear in stories, songs, and spiritual beliefs. Polynesian legends describe reefs as living ancestors or protective spirits. In parts of Southeast Asia, reefs are woven into folklore as places of transformation and balance. These cultural connections encouraged respect for the sea, reinforcing careful stewardship. Tourism, a major part of today's global economy, is deeply connected to coral reefs. Millions of travelers visit reef destinations each year, drawn by snorkeling, diving, and the quiet luxury of tropical coastlines. Reef-based tourism supports local economies through hotels, transportation, education, and conservation employment. Luxury resorts often market reefs as symbols of natural beauty and exclusivity. Overwater bungalows, glass-bottom boats, and guided reef experiences blend comfort with environmental wonder. When managed responsibly, this form of tourism can fund marine protection and education, creating a balance between enjoyment and preservation. Coral reefs also support global food security. An estimated 1 billion people worldwide rely on reef-related fisheries for protein and income. Even small reefs can sustain entire communities when carefully managed, highlighting the economic importance of healthy marine ecosystems. Modern science has deepened our understanding of how reefs and humans interact. Coastal development, pollution, and overfishing can disrupt reef systems, while thoughtful planning and marine protected areas help restore balance. Around the world, nations are recognizing that protecting reefs is not only an environmental choice, but an economic and cultural investment. Education plays a growing role in reef conservation. Schools, aquariums, and research centers introduce students to marine biology and ecology. inspiring future scientists and conservationists. Reef education programs often combine traditional knowledge with modern technology, creating inclusive approaches to learning. Reefs even influence architecture and design. Some coastal structures mimic reef shapes to reduce wave impact. Artificial reefs, carefully designed from eco-friendly materials, are used to restore damaged areas and provide new habitats for marine life while supporting local economies. In art and media, coral reefs symbolize resilience, beauty, and interconnectedness. Documentaries, photography, and virtual reality experiences allow people far from the ocean to appreciate reef ecosystems, expanding global awareness and empathy. As climate science advances, coral reefs have become indicators of planetary health. Their sensitivity to temperature and water quality makes them early warning systems for broader environmental change. This has placed reefs at the center of international research, policy discussions, and conservation funding. Despite challenges, many reef communities offer hopeful examples. Locally managed marine areas, reef restoration projects, and sustainable tourism models show that humans and reefs can thrive together when guided by respect and patience. As you rest with these thoughts, imagine generations of people watching the same reefs glow beneath moonlit water, relying on their quiet abundance and steady presence. Coral reefs remind us that prosperity and protection often grow from harmony rather than speed. As we continue our slow, calming journey, we now drift into the hopeful and quietly innovative world of coral reef restoration. This is where science, patience, and care come together. Working gently to support ecosystems that have grown for thousands of years and now need thoughtful assistance. Coral reef restoration begins with understanding how corals grow. Corals are living animals, sensitive to changes in temperature, light, and water quality. Scientists carefully study these conditions to recreate environments where corals can thrive. This work blends marine biology, technology, and environmental education, forming a bridge between knowledge and action. One of the most common restoration methods is coral gardening. Small fragments of healthy coral are grown in underwater nurseries or controlled ocean farms. These fragments are carefully monitored, protected from predators, and allowed to grow strong. Once ready, they are transplanted onto damaged reef areas, where they slowly anchor and expand. Some nurseries float in calm waters, gently swaying with currents, while others are anchored to the seafloor. These structures provide ideal conditions for growth and allow researchers to study resilience among different coral species. Over time, the transplanted corals begin to attract fish and invertebrates, rebuilding the reef's natural complexity. Technology plays a growing role in restoration. 3D printed reef structures made from eco-friendly materials help create stable foundations for coral attachment. These shapes mimic natural reef formations, providing shelter and encouraging biodiversity. Drones and satellite imaging assist scientists in mapping reef health across vast ocean regions. Selective breeding is another promising approach. Some corals naturally tolerate warmer temperatures better than others. Researchers identify these resilient individuals and encourage their growth, hoping to strengthen reefs against future climate challenges. This careful work emphasizes adaptation rather than replacement. Community involvement is essential. In many coastal regions, local residents are trained as reef stewards. They help monitor coral health, manage tourism impacts, and educate visitors. This creates local employment while strengthening cultural ties to marine environments. Marine protected areas support restoration by reducing fishing pressure and allowing ecosystems to recover naturally. When combined with restoration projects, these protected zones often show faster and more stable recovery, benefiting both marine life and nearby communities. Education and tourism can work together in restoration. Some programs invite travelers to participate in coral planting experiences under expert supervision. These activities promote environmental awareness and offer meaningful travel experiences rooted in conservation and respect. Economic benefits follow healthy reefs. Restored reefs support fisheries, tourism, and coastal protection. Studies show that every dollar invested in reef restoration can return multiple times its value through ecosystem services, making conservation a sound economic decision. Despite the progress, restoration is not a quick solution. Corals grow slowly, sometimes only a few centimeters per year. Success depends on long-term commitment, careful monitoring, and reducing broader stressors like pollution and climate change. Global collaboration strengthens these efforts. Universities, governments, nonprofit organizations, and local communities share research and resources. International partnerships allow successful methods developed in one region to support reefs elsewhere, creating a network of shared knowledge. The future of coral reefs will depend on balance. While restoration can help heal damaged areas, protecting existing, healthy reefs remains essential. Prevention is often more effective than repair, and both approaches work best together. As you settle into rest, imagine a reef quietly rebuilding itself, one coral branch at a time. Tiny fish return. Colors slowly deepen. Life resumes its ancient rhythm beneath the waves. As we continue drifting gently onward, we arrive at one of the most quietly astonishing aspects of coral reefs: their biodiversity. Coral reefs are often called the rainforests of the sea, not because they look similar, but because of how much life they support in such a small space. Though reefs cover less than 1% of the ocean floor, they are home to roughly a quarter of all known marine species. A coral reef functions like a living city. Every crevice, overhang, and branching coral structure provides shelter, food, and opportunity. Small fish weave between coral fingers, while larger species patrol the outer edges, maintaining balance through natural predation. This layered system allows countless species to coexist without overwhelming one another. Fish diversity on reefs is especially striking. Parrotfish graze on algae, helping keep coral surfaces clean. Butterfly fish specialize in feeding on coral polyps, while surgeonfish move in schools, trimming algae like underwater gardeners. Each species plays a role, supporting the health and stability of the reef. Invertebrates add even more complexity. Sea stars, sea urchins, shrimp, crabs, and mollusks occupy specific niches. Cleaner shrimp establish stations where fish line up to have parasites removed, a quiet exchange of trust and mutual benefit. Sea cucumbers recycle nutrients by processing sand, keeping the reef floor healthy. Sponges, though often overlooked, are essential reef residents. They filter enormous volumes of seawater, removing bacteria and organic particles. Some sponges house symbiotic microorganisms, turning waste into nourishment and contributing to water clarity. Reef biodiversity extends beyond visible life. Microorganisms, including bacteria and plankton, form the foundation of the food web. These tiny organisms capture energy from sunlight and nutrients, supporting everything from coral polyps to large predators. Without them, the entire system would slowly unravel. Corals themselves host microscopic algae called zooxanthellae. This partnership is one of the most important relationships in marine biology. The algae live within coral tissues, providing energy through photosynthesis, while the coral offers shelter and nutrients. This symbiosis allows reefs to flourish in nutrient-poor tropical waters. Nighttime reveals a different reef entirely. Many reef species are nocturnal, emerging after sunset to feed and move. Corals extend their tentacles, plankton drifts through the water, and bioluminescent organisms create soft flashes of light. The reef becomes calmer, quieter, yet no less alive. Predators, such as reef sharks and large groupers, help regulate populations. Their presence maintains balance, preventing any one species from dominating. Healthy predator populations are often signs of a thriving reef ecosystem. Some reef species travel great distances. Sea turtles return to reefs to feed after long migrations. Rays glide over sandy patches nearby. These visitors connect reefs to broader ocean systems, showing how reefs function as part of a global marine network. Biodiversity also provides resilience. Reefs with greater species diversity tend to recover more quickly from disturbances. If one species declines, others can often fill similar roles, maintaining essential functions until balance is restored. Human cultures have long depended on reef biodiversity. Coastal communities rely on reefs for food, medicine, and cultural traditions. Many island economies are shaped by reef-based fisheries and tourism, linking ecological health to human well-being. Scientists continue discovering new species on reefs even today. Advances in underwater exploration and genetic analysis reveal life forms previously unknown, reminding us how much remains hidden beneath the waves as you rest. Imagine drifting above a reef at twilight. Colors soften, movements slow. Life continues quietly, interconnected and balanced, like a gentle breath beneath the sea. As we continue our calm journey, we begin to see coral reefs not only as living ecosystems, but also as quiet participants in the planet's larger rhythms. Reefs interact with climate, ocean currents, and even the shape of coastlines, influencing Earth in ways that are subtle yet deeply important. Coral reefs act as natural barriers between the open ocean and the land. Their solid structures absorb wave energy, reducing the force of storms and protecting coastlines from erosion. In many tropical regions, reefs help shield beaches, villages, and luxury resort destinations from powerful waves and seasonal storms. This natural protection supports tourism economies and coastal development while preserving natural beauty. Ocean currents play a crucial role in reef formation and survival. Warm, clear waters allow sunlight to penetrate, fueling the photosynthesis that corals depend on. Currents also deliver nutrients and plankton, sustaining reef food webs while carrying away waste. In this gentle exchange, reefs and oceans remain in balance. Temperature is one of the most sensitive factors affecting coral health. Most reef-building corals thrive in a narrow temperature range, typically between 23 and 29 degrees Celsius. When waters grow warmer for extended periods, corals may expel their symbiotic algae in a process known as coral bleaching. Though bleaching does not always mean death, prolonged stress can weaken reefs significantly. Despite their sensitivity, reefs show remarkable adaptability. Some corals can adjust to gradual temperature changes, and certain reef regions have demonstrated resilience after periods of stress. Scientists study these areas closely, seeking lessons that could guide conservation and restoration efforts. Coral reefs also influence the carbon cycle. While they are not major carbon sinks like forests, reefs play a role in regulating carbon dioxide through the formation of calcium carbonate skeletons. Over long geological timescales, this process contributes to Earth's balance of carbon between the atmosphere and oceans. Sea level changes shape reefs over time. As sea levels rise or fall, corals grow upward or outward, adjusting their structures to remain within sunlight-rich zones. Ancient reefs, preserved in rock layers, reveal past sea levels, offering scientists valuable insights into Earth's climate history. Reefs also influence sediment movement. By calming waves, they allow sand to settle, helping create beaches and shallow lagoons. Many famous tropical destinations owe their white sandy shores to nearby coral reefs, linking natural beauty with global tourism and cultural identity. Climate patterns such as El Niño and La Niña affect reef ecosystems by altering water, temperatures, and nutrient flows. These large-scale ocean-atmosphere interactions demonstrate how reefs are connected to global climate systems, responding gently but unmistakably to planetary changes. Human actions now play a growing role in reef-climate relationships. Efforts to reduce pollution, manage fisheries, and protect marine habitats help strengthen reef resilience. Marine protected areas allow ecosystems to recover naturally, supporting biodiversity and sustainable economies. Technological advances aid reef conservation. Satellite monitoring, underwater drones, and genetic research help scientists track reef health and identify early signs of stress. These tools represent a blend of science, technology, and environmental stewardship, offering hope for future generations. Coral restoration projects are expanding worldwide. By growing corals in underwater nurseries and transplanting them onto damaged reefs, researchers and volunteers help rebuild ecosystems piece by piece. These efforts also support education and ecotourism, connecting people more deeply with marine life. As you relax, imagine reefs slowly growing, layer adapting to shifting tides and gentle currents. Their patience mirrors the slow rhythm of the ocean itself, steady and enduring. As our journey gently comes to a close, we turn our attention toward the future of coral reefs and the quiet role they play in the story of life on Earth. Coral reefs are ancient, resilient, and endlessly patient, yet they now exist at a moment of change rather than alarm. Around the world, reefs continue to grow, adapt, and persist. In some regions, coral ecosystems are recovering naturally when given time, space, and protection. These slow recoveries remind us that nature often works best when allowed to follow its own rhythms. Conservation is not about forcing change, but about restoring balance and letting life unfold. Education plays a central role in the future of reefs. As people learn how reefs function, how they support fisheries, tourism, and coastal economies, appreciation deepens. This understanding shapes responsible travel, sustainable luxury tourism, and mindful consumption, helping align human activity with the natural world. Many coastal communities have long lived alongside reefs, developing traditions and cultures rooted in respect for the sea. Indigenous knowledge, passed quietly through generations, often emphasizes stewardship rather than ownership. Today, scientists increasingly collaborate with these communities, blending traditional wisdom with modern marine science. Global cooperation supports reef protection on a larger scale. International agreements, marine protected areas, and shared research help safeguard reef systems that cross national boundaries. Oceans connect continents, cultures, and economies, making coral reefs a shared global responsibility. Innovation continues to expand conservation possibilities. Scientists explore heat-tolerant coral strains, reef-friendly construction practices, and sustainable aquaculture. These efforts are not rushed. They move carefully, honoring the complexity of reef ecosystems while seeking gentle solutions. Reefs also remind us of time's vast scale. Some coral structures have grown continuously for thousands of years, surviving ice ages, sea level shifts, and continental changes. In their slow growth, reefs offer perspective, encouraging patience and long-term thinking. On a personal level, reefs inspire wonder. Even those who may never dive beneath the waves can feel connected through images, documentaries, and stories. This sense of connection often sparks care, and care quietly leads to protection. As you rest, imagine coral polyps extending their tiny tentacles into the water, feeding, building, and shaping worlds unseen. Picture schools of fish moving like drifting thoughts, synchronized and calm. Hear the silence of the reef, broken only by the gentle pulse of life itself. The ocean does not rush, and neither do reefs. They grow, as they always have, one moment at a time, guided by light, water, and balance. In their presence, urgency fades, replaced by steadiness and quiet strength. Thank you for sharing this peaceful exploration of coral reefs and marine biodiversity. May the calm beauty beneath the waves linger in your thoughts as you drift deeper into rest, carrying with you the gentle reminder that even the smallest lives can shape entire worlds. Rest well and let the ocean keep watch as you sleep.